time for the man you've all been waiting for, the king of
podcasting.
You've been described as the unacceptable face of
journalism.
I've done nothing wrong.
He was a bully.
Not you had to shake my hand.
He was a parasite.
It's classic tax avoidance.
Go away!
ML Solar Detroit.
You asked interrogative questions around my face. It's gone.
What are you doing?
That is not paid for by them. That is paid for by the people of Detroit.
You might be qualified, ML.
I'm not qualified for this job.
Let me tell you something. You want to go right now? Okay? You want to go right now?
1 year ago today, more or less, I was getting everybody I could find, everybody I know, out to the polls to try and help further my ambitions as a candidate for Detroit City Council. And some of the feedback I got from folks was, well, you got a lot of white people who support you.
Oh.
And I thought, well, we have a lot of issues that we're trying to get out there. We have a lot of people meeting voters and greeting voters and sharing literature and answering questions.
Terrible white people.
It's like, yeah, but I think you're sending the wrong message to folks. And I was like, okay, well, I think all we're just trying to do is motivate and activate people who care about Detroit. And
that didn't work out well, didn't it? That didn't work out well at all, did it?
Does that
It worked out okay. It worked out okay on primary day. We finished a strong second. After that, it didn't work out. It didn't work out so well. In fact, give me the diaper face drop. That's the one. That's the one I was.
You
feeling
made some really real friends here.
Yeah, it was pretty bad, but it is different, and it just kind of reminds you a little bit about with politics that sometimes it's all these extraneous issues that get involved, and we were talking a little bit before the show. I know you all thought we were asleep, but no, we were actually trying to prepare this amazing meal that we're about to serve up. But we're talking about how there are little stickers on the gas pumps with Biden saying, "I did this," and Patrick was saying he thinks they're funny. I said they're clever, but I mean Putin did this, and we're talking about the withdrawal from Afghanistan and how Biden was getting criticized, and then Patrick said, "Well, didn't everybody want us out of Afghanistan?" I said, "Yeah, but he didn't really do it the most seamless way possible."
Yeah,
he said,
pretty awful.
but they're all out. And it got me thinking about how in politics, even when you do what people want, even if you're motivating people and activating people and trying to engage people to make a difference and accomplish things that they say they want accomplished, you can still take it in the ear, because when people don't want you to win or don't support you, they will find a way to turn the things that you do well or that you do that they want against you. And
It's
that's why
easy to criticize, hard to come up with solutions.
Yeah, and that's why people like Patrick don't vote.
Yeah, nah, I don't bother with it.
So
we didn't know that when we agreed to take him on as an intern. That might have been one of those
That's his
deal breaker interview questions.
You can do that. What's wrong with that? If you don't want to vote, give him somebody to vote for. I mean, I disagree. I would vote.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess you're exercising your vote by not voting.
Exactly.
It's sort of like doing the power to stop spice mining as a way to control spice mining, but I got it.
Yeah, I just don't like how they count up the votes. They it's not like.
You mean falsely?
No, that's.
I know they counted 11,000 too many in Georgia.
No, the way that I mean is like the whole like electoral college system of voting seems a bit broken to me. Like if say you're a Democrat living in Texas, well then in the last election your vote didn't really mean shit. And if you're a Republican in California, your vote really hasn't meant shit for years.
For the presidential election. I mean,
yeah.
All politics is local, right, ML?
Well, they have
same.
Democratic members of Congress from Texas. They have Democratic judges in Texas. They have state senators and state reps. And when abortion was being debated in the Texas legislature a few years ago, there was a woman who was a state senator who became a national figure by the vote she cast and the way she expressed her concern about ending the right to choose. So, if Democrats hadn't voted, she wouldn't have been there.
But now aren't local elections.
You're dismissing the Senate and the president.
No.
Is what Patrick's point is.
Yeah.
They have a fair amount of power, right?
Yeah, now aren't local elections rigged too? Like they're because of this.
Well, the one I was in, I don't know.
Well, because of gerrymandering, now it's just like, okay, so this little section that has been stretched to fit in mostly people of this party, now any voters in that area who are of the other party, their vote doesn't count. Like it's is like if you're on the losing side, your vote didn't even count in the first place.
Yeah, but that's such a short money argument, because what ends up happening is when you vote and they redraw the districts and they say, well, it looks like there's 10,000 Democratic voters there. Now there's 15,000 Republican voters, so we need to change it around. I mean, they don't know that you're there. They don't know where to put you. You don't count. And the thing is, when you look at your vote in terms of its concentration, it's on these local elections where you're voting for city council, where you're voting for school board, where people don't announce a party affiliation that has the most power. Most of the taxes you pay are going to be probably property taxes and fees and registrations and things like those are all decided by your local officials, and those local officials are chosen by very few people, particularly because the deck has been stacked so much that once, like today, it's primary day. Maybe I should mention that. This is primary election day. And for a lot of people, like, well, I'll go vote in November. Well, forget it, because the real choice, the candidate that is going to win, is going to be decided today. When this 13th congressional district, the one that has all these candidates from Grosse Pointe to downriver, is decided, it doesn't matter who the Republican is in November, because the Democrats, that district is tilted so much that they're going to get it. The Haley Stevens Levins race, that might make a difference, but some of these races, you vote today, and there's still time to vote, by the way. The polls are probably open till 7 where you are, possibly 8.
I always like voting when there's a good referendum on the ballot too, like a state referendum.
Right.
Right.
Just a single issue.
So those
up or
matter.
down.
Yeah. Because look, you grow up thinking that these people are representing their constituents and they're doing what is best for their, their district or their county or their state, whatever it is. And then you get older and you realize, oh no, it's just a job and a way for them to make money, and it's all kind of bullshit.
May I gently push back on something though, Mr. Elwick?
Oh,
you can. By the way, on those referendums, sometimes people try and have them on the primary ballot because they know fewer people will vote, and so they can drive their people out and really tilt it.
Yeah.
So to Patrick's point, it's all manipulation, and the vote doesn't matter.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Right.
So you've bought into that?
No, I just want to push back gently on the idea of where most of your money goes. I think for most people, if you don't own a home, you're not worried about property tax. It's your federal income tax. That's still and even if you do own a home, let's say your mortgage is $1,000. What's your property tax each month on that mortgage? I would bet it's not anywhere close to what you look at the federal withholding at the end of the year. For most people, that's by far the biggest number they pay.
Well, I guess for high rollers like you, but if you don't make any money, you may qualify for the earned income tax credit and not pay much.
Right, and then maybe it is gas tax and
those fees and stuff. Those are
fees for folks like you.
Those are decided.
They are.
Those are decided at a local level.
But I think a lot of people look at their stuff.
And if you're a renter, by the way, I mean, if we're going to get granular, if you're a renter and the property taxes are high, don't think your landlord says, well, you know what, I'm not going to pass.
No, it's rolled into it. No, for sure.
Yeah. Everybody pays property taxes. You either pay it directly because the bill comes in your name, or Simon Legree, who owns your shack, has it, and he passes it along to you.
I think most people that live week to week, and that is most people, right, or check to check, you look at the stub and you look at what the gross is and you look at what the net is, and by far the biggest subtractor of that is the federal income
It's the
tax.
one you feel the most because you see it in every paycheck.
Yeah, and it's even if it's just psychological, yeah. And so Patrick's saying he doesn't want to vote because he has no control over that, right?
Yeah, I mean, like when the vote is, basically, either they change the area or the way that the system is set up. It's your vote. Just sometimes it feels like it just doesn't matter, and
doesn't.
Well, when you don't cast it most certainly doesn't matter.
Yeah, but then
so you're going to let these guys get away with it? You're going to play into the big man's game?
One individual vote doesn't matter.
But that's not true.
The way I see it, it's like it's either I do
ask
nothing.
Al Gore if some individual votes didn't matter.
The problem is when the individual votes are, if there's a collective thought like that, right? Because I think it should be easy. You should make it as easy as possible for everybody who can vote to vote. That's why I like the mail-in ballots. Because it's not that fucking hard. And
Why do you think some states are trying to make it harder to do that sort of thing?
Oh, I mean, it depends who you ask, right? It's either to suppress a certain demographic to vote, or it's because you want to stop fraud from happening.
Well, they've been voting this way in Oregon for like 20 years.
Colorado too.
And we haven't heard anything about fraud until 2016 when somebody said if I don't win, then I'll say the election is crooked.
Rigged.
He won and didn't say anything about it, and then he lost and said it was rigged, and now nobody trusts any of these.
Well, because it's not, it's not
there's,
perfect.
There's
right?
an interesting evolution too with some of our Republican statewide office candidates who are now hesitating to say that the election was stolen now that they think that they've got the nominee locked up.
Not Dixon?
Yeah, Dixon on national TV.
The
Paul
other night,
Egan reported that she hesitated to say that the election was stolen, and she hesitated to say it right after Donald Trump endorsed her. And Matt DePerno, who the Republican State Convention made the Republican nominee for Attorney General, last time I saw him, he was softening his rhetoric on whether
what
or
else
not
does he have then?
was stolen.
Tell me what else. I mean, anything else about that guy?
Yeah, well, that's
Look, I'm not a fan of Dana Nessel by any stretch of the imagination. But wow, those are the two choices for Attorney General. Okay, great.
You should love Nessel. She's another U of M grad who went to East Lansing and couldn't hold her shit together.
I don't vote on people just based on if they went to the cult or not.
Even though you have a cultish T-shirt on today. By the way, you look
cool.
You look good today, but
Hey,
Mike
all right.
Mike looks marvelous.
Now, if you're watching us on YouTube, we encourage you to subscribe to YouTube channel ML Elric and then hit notify. Patrick, what
like
do
a
they do
movie
when they
star.
get
So if you're already watching us on YouTube, make sure you just hit that subscribe button. It's right under the video. Make sure to like the video as well. That tells us that you're liking what we're making. You want to hear more of it. And if you really feel like it, you should hit that notification bell right next to the subscription button, because that'll let you know every time we're about to post a video that there's one coming out, and you'll know right away to get back on YouTube and watch our video.
I don't mean to objectify
I feel like we've
you.
just watched somebody grow up right in front of us.
Can I say, it's great. Thank you,
very well
Patrick. I don't mean to objectify you. I'm sorry, but you look rather, stylish.
You are talking about people's
Handsome.
appearances again, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tudor Dixon is super hot, though.
You've got to go. What's that?
Tudor Dixon, she's super hot. Like, she's like...
She's very attractive.
Yeah, she's like a MILF.
Well, there, vote based on how people
Ryan
look.
Kelly is very good looking too. He's got those high cheekbones. He's got like a little Sean Connery dimple. I mean,
Appearance
it's very
makes a big
attractive.
difference. I
You
know
have-
there's
it does.
the
Can you do
Kennedy
Sean Connery
Nixon
for us?
debate thing.
I don't perform. I'm not a seal. And if I was a seal, I'd require a herring.
You're only a seal if you're pulling the string yourself.
Would you want him
A
to...
seal that claps when he sees something worth clapping for is his own seal.
I see.
While people go online to get the notifications for YouTube and everything else,
Yes.
another place to go while you're on your travels on the internet is callhallfirst.com.
In fact, it's the first place you should go if you're looking to refinance, if you're trying to purchase a home.
Yeah, exactly. Call hallfirst.com for Hall Financial. There's a lot of stuff you can do right now because so rates are going up. I mean, that's no big secret. They're not historically low, but if you zoom out, 4 decades, still pretty good rates on your mortgage right now. Or if you need to, consolidate your loans, get rid of those high credit card loans, or just take some money out. They do cash out refinancing. There's a lot of stuff Hall Financial can do. You can unlock thousands of dollars with a cash out refinance from Hall Financial. Just give them a call, 866-CALLHALL. I don't know why spelled out Call Hall. Should you have to spell that out? 866-CALL-HALL, or feel free to chat with them online, callhallfirst.com.
And hit the 2 L's at the end real fast because it's 8 spaces, but it only takes 7 when you call them. Or just go to our website, mlsoulofdetroit.com, and you'll see a link to David Hall's site. When you go to David Hall, tell him that, we sent you there.
Okay.
Or Luke Nowacki, if you're looking at the market, the Dow had its best month in a long time, but you shouldn't know that. You should just trust in Luke and make sure.
Yeah, that's the crazy
you
thing.
leave the worrying to Luke.
Yeah, everybody freaks out because, you see these precipitous drops, and inflation is a real thing. People can squabble about the meaning of recession, but we're getting closer to it. If you're not feeling it now, all I know is things cost more, and that's what sucks. But look at the market. It will push back. It will revert from its lows. It'll push to new highs. So be positioned. Take advantage of it. Call Luke Nowacki, Pinnacle Wealth Strategies, 248-663-4748. That's Pinnacle Wealth Strategies, 248-663-4748.
And when you call that number, Luke will make it all about you, sweetheart.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Royal Alliance Associates Inc. Member FINRA SIPC. Royal Alliance Associates Inc. is separately owned, and other entities and/or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Royal Alliance Associates Inc.
And that made me think of something. Patrick, do they teach like finance in high school anymore or college?
No, not in any way. I know that they probably do in college because they have
If you
finance
take that
and
class.
business type classes,
Yeah.
but in high school they don't teach anything of the sort.
I think that's ridiculous.
Well, Patrick went
Can
to
we
a
trust
Catholic
Patrick?
high school, so their idea of finance is give us some money.
Give 10% to the church.
No, I know, but don't you think that should be taught more in public schools?
So when we were at
Yes.
Wayne State's orientation, they had a
There's
guy.
always the stories in the show.
Well, they had a guy
I
come
thought
up
we didn't
there.
have anything to talk about. Apparently we do.
We have too much to talk about.
Cyrus, take us up. We did the reads. We did the.
All right, when you were at Wayne State,
Where
sorry. I was being
contractually
a dick there.
obligations met. They had a guy came and talked to all the parents and said, "This isn't a class, but this is something I do where students can come in and we talked about balancing a checkbook,
Yeah.
making sure that when you have that first job, you put some money into your 401k and do all these other things." And I thought, this is fantastic. Why is this not a mandatory one credit class? Why do they not have that? And then we wrote his name down in our little orientation books that we're going to have our kid hook up with this class, this little seminar they have. Then we couldn't find it. We called somebody like, yeah, I can't remember who that was. And I was like, shit, because that's a huge thing. And my oldest daughter, Emily, just got her first job and it doesn't pay very much. And I said, well, the first thing you need to do is find out if they have a 401k and then put some money into that.
Yeah.
Because start now. And after a little while, have her call Luke.
Just overall investment in general. You know, teach financing to kids. I don't know. It blows my mind. It's so important. Sorry, I digress.
Yeah, and I was
Because it's so easy to spend money now. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, just with a click, you can spend a fortune. It's like, well, okay, where'd the money come from?
Yeah, I'm an Eagle Scout, so they have like merit badges that require you to do that. But like outside of that, I had absolutely no exposure to any type of finance instruction or anything like that. I was very fortunate to live with my grandma because she's very old fashioned and she took it upon herself to teach me all these types of things.
Butter
I'm still
churning.
learning very slow, but I'm at least getting kind of into it now. I just opened a Roth IRA a couple months back. So
Damn, that's the post-tax IRA. So
Yeah.
that one's never going to be taxed, which is pretty impressive. But election day, a lot of candidates are out there. We'll know soon who advances to the next round. Teresa was just telling me, he's like, man, I remember how crazy we were at this time last year. It's kind of nice not to be going nuts like that, but it's also a little sad not to be in the middle of something that's exciting and dynamic. And for those people who do vote, you're trying to reach them. You're trying to motivate them. You're trying to get them to go out and turn their support into a vote and then go from there. But
we're not sad and we're not dynamic and exciting here.
folks, just run back the last 3 seconds and you'll have the answer to that question.
I'm glad. I'm glad to have you back.
You're such a
You know what I
liar.
mean?
You're so full of shit.
Yeah, it's
No, I'm actually not.
brimming with enthusiasm.
No. Do you remember what it was like in the studio a year ago? No, thank you.
Oh yeah, no, yes. Well,
No, I'm actually, I'm being completely sincere. I love having this mic.
You didn't have a young intern in here.
Well,
with you guys.
while Shawn was doing his best to try and undermine democracy and the opportunity for good government on the east side, he succeeded in somehow. This is the long play. Now, you talked about the short money. This guy right here.
I just wanted him back at the Free Press.
This is the guy you don't want to go up against. He said, by the way, I heard you were using a Nazi party for a minute there. And by a minute, I mean like a minute ago. We had stuff posted online that said, don't vote for ML Elric because he's a white supremacist. And I did some screen grabs of some of this stuff, and it's just so crazy. And so I do sympathize with some of these candidates with some of the bullshit that they're putting up with, but they're probably not getting as much scrutiny as they deserve because there just aren't enough reporters.
To that point, Gabby on YouTube had a question to see if any. So you have the big three, right? You have Whitmer, Nessel, and Jocelyn Benson, and there's a feeling that they're unbeatable. Do you think Do you think anybody's going to beat them? I think the person most in danger would be Whitmer.
Nobody thought Trump was going to win, right?
Sure,
That's true.
I mean, we just go from there.
That's true. Well, I think with Nessel and Benson, they're going to kind of be tied to Whitmer in terms of.
Is that just because people just vote straight party pretty much?
Some of that, but I also think people don't feel as connected to them as they do to the governor. In the same way that Patrick's not voting because he feels that his vote on president doesn't matter. So if you have a Republican nominee for governor, like let's say James Craig wins in a write-in, and people are like, he's a nut. Right. Yeah, there's no. Yeah, I know. This is the completely rhetorical,
major hypothetical
fantasy world here. But and people say, well, I'm never going to vote for him. They're less likely to go out and vote
at all, yeah.
And they won't vote for the other people. Whereas if you're at the bottom of the ticket, like if you're this state rep in, I don't know, Menominee, you're like, oh my God, I hope somebody goes out to vote for me. But if they feel like the governor's race is a loss, they probably won't come out to figure out who their state rep in Menominee is going to be. You don't get that far down the ballot. Whereas if you had this abortion rights referendum question on the ballot, you'd have people coming out just to vote for that, and while they're there, they'd vote for governor and all these other positions. So if I'm trying to think who would be considered, like let's say Ralph Rebrandt is the nominee for the Republican Party for governor. Very nice man, but he basically wants to turn this into a Judeo-Christian state where religion is taught in the schools and all this other stuff. I think there are a lot of traditional Republicans who are going to say, I'm not getting up out of my chair to go vote for him, in which case Nessel and Benson have it a lot easier. So I think it does hang on Whitmer. She is the big draw. You're either going to vote for her or you're going to vote for the Republican nominee. And if you don't care about the Republican nominee, you're probably not going to come out. Because I think if you don't like the Republican nominee, you're still not going to vote for Whitmer.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is why we have third parties popping up. And there is one that has Andrew Yang, who ran for president as a Democrat, then ran for mayor of New York, didn't make it either time. And Christie Todd Whitman, who was governor of New Jersey at one time as a Republican, which is not that common. In fact, I think she was probably the first Republican governor of New Jersey in a long time. I think she served in the George W. Bush administration as EPA administrator, and they are announcing a third party. Does it have a name? Have they picked a name yet?
The Forward Party, right?
The Forward Party.
Terrible name.
Okay.
Thank you, Mark.
It kind of reminds me of when Tony Blair in England was talking about the third way. It's like, it's kind of catchy, but what does it mean? And they are an independent party that I guess is trying to provide a landing space for people who feel that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are not a home for them anymore. Although,
it's not,
based on them, it seems like
it's not going to work.
They have less interest in supporting Republican candidates and Democratic candidates.
Everybody screams about a third party. I just don't see it working at all. And that maybe
Ross Perot.
Maybe that's the problem.
They said my daughter's a lesbian. That's why I didn't run for president.
When you have primaries they flew at my daughter's wedding. Yeah.
So no Sean Connery, but Ross Perot.
Well, you didn't ask for
dynamic international heroes. Both.
All three of you talked at the same time. Can you do that again?
Both vaguely associated with the Navy.
Okay.
Yeah, third party is never going to win, as Teresa points out on Facebook. But that's the problem with these primaries, is that the hardcore political people who, tend to be the furthest on the right and the furthest on the left tend to choose the people that are nominated for a general election.
But they can decide elections in ways that they.
But that's why you have
Ralph Nader probably cost Gore the presidency.
Sure.
Jill Stein absolutely cost Hillary Clinton the presidency. Ross Perot cost George H.W. Bush the presidency. I mean, these third parties, they are not electable, but they can swing elections. Not always the way they would want to, because I think Perot probably liked Bush more than he liked Clinton. I guarantee you Nader would be a lot happier with Gore than Bush. And Jill Stein, if you had to tell her, well, if you run for president, you're going to get Donald Trump elected, she'd be like, I'm not running for president, and that way I'll save gas. Green Party, she's kind of
now we got it.
Concerned about
Thank you.
Carbon footprint there. Boy, that did so much better when we workshopped it, but
no one workshopped that. What are you talking about?
What? You guys don't remember the Jill Stein? Oh, I know you guys were talking about DeShawn Watson. That's why.
May I ask you a question?
Yes, as long as it's not about his appearance.
Before we talk about DeShawn, can you see Marc from where you are? I mean, can you actually see him?
I see where he's coming from.
Or do you see the
meeting
you
him
see
someplace
him on the monitor?
No, I see a clock on the monitor.
But you
and
can't
it's
see
amazing
him.
that time is going so fast because
But-
it feels like it's going so slow.
I know, but you can't see Mark.
I can see the top of his
But he can hear me.
I was just curious because you probably don't know this, Mark. Mike stares at me for long portions of the show, and our eyes kind of lock. And I thought, well, do you do that with Mark also,
No, that passion goes strictly between you
or is
two.
it just some kind of thing here?
I typically don't even look at people while doing a show.
Are you shy? You don't,
no,
you don't
no.
believe what you're saying?
I like to listen.
Oh, okay.
It's a radio thing.
He's the lights off honeymoon guy. I got you.
Radio thing.
That's all right.
Well, you don't want to talk about DeShawn Watson? Is that what that little dig was about? You don't have.
No.
Man,
No,
you
I was just saying.
ML Elric hates the NFL. Is that a fair statement?
Wait a second. May I ask
That
you?
is a fair statement.
Can I ask you one more question, Mark,
boy,
before
here
you
we
get
go.
onto
Is it
this?
about my appearance?
Why don't you think it'll work? Just
A third party?
yeah, in this country. Because obviously, Patrick was talking about this before the show, right? Just the parliamentary system, you split up the vote, or not? You go by percentage of the votes. And
All those countries that have third party systems, look how much trouble they have coming up with a coalition. Right?
Canada,
right,
they're doing okay.
but they kind of offer health care to their people, and their
think
roads
it's
are in
just
pretty good
better-
shape, and they've got.
That's fine. That's
I think it
lovely,
is
but
just-
that will never happen either.
It's just
No, I
better
know,
to
but
have
why don't you think a third party? I mean, don't you think there are enough people out there that are sick and tired of both sides and the gridlock we have?
Yeah, I do. I really, really do. But then when they get in that voting booth, they're more than happy to vote.
See, I don't think it's the idea. I mean, I understand why you say that in theory with the party. I think it's a matter of of a person. Like right now, I would argue, and I don't want to get into a political debate about Biden and all that. I would argue at the top of our culture right now, we have no leadership. We don't. I think there's a vacuum there. And I think it would take the right person. I don't know who that person is, but the right person.
Jon Stewart.
I was talking about that with somebody earlier today, Jon Stewart, who can walk a very tight space between embracing a lot of different kind of folks, saying what you think, being true in a way, being funny, and not being an asshole. And that is a very, very small space to operate in.
Do you mind telling me who Jon Stewart is? Because all I'm thinking is Green Lantern.
Oh, Patrick, this really doesn't concern you, this conversation.
Is this Adult Swim?
Can we have an adult swim? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Orville Redenbacher says, "Get off the porch."
I'm kidding.
My first response is to roll my eyes when people, say somebody like Jon Stewart. But then you have Volodymyr Zelensky.
No Republican would vote for Jon Stewart.
No,
He is
No, I'm not saying Jon Stewart, but there's a reason Ted Cruz responded to him because he understands the cultural cachet.
Sure.
Right.
But what I like is and it's kind of what people liked about Trump is this this honest response, and he's very passionate about helping veterans. To whereas a bill that was voted on before
those bone spurs, he feels very connected to them.
No, he's talking about Stewart, but that's a good joke.
No, you said Trump.
Yeah, like
He's
Trump.
very
I mean,
connected to
Trump
helping.
says what he feels. He
Right.
doesn't.
But I thought you said Trump was.
No, he
committed
said
to-
like Trump.
He
Thanks for
said
listening.
like Trump,
Stop
but then
looking at me.
Stewart was the one who's very passionate about the veterans.
But
So
with
I
this
couldn't
whole,
wait to get the bone spurs in. I jumped the gun.
with this whole situation with Jon Stewart and him really pushing for was it $60 billion to help veterans and healthcare, and mainly caused by the burn pits and all that stuff. What I really thought the back and forth with him this week and Ted Cruz, the thing that stuck out was, did you see that Jack Posobiec guy who's on Twitter? And he's a troll. He is a troll. And John got really angry at him and yelled at him. Did you see any of this, Sean?
No, I know who Jack is. I did not see that part of the exchange. I saw the Cruz.
Jon Stewart was talking about this bill again yesterday or 2 days ago, and Jack came up and John just starts yelling at him like, "You're a troll. Get out of here." Blah blah blah. And then another video pops up where it's those two together, and this is what I liked about it. John goes, "I overreacted. He wants the same thing I do. I'm sorry." Like, and with Jack there, which it's like, yeah, you don't see people go, "Hey, I overreacted. This is crazy. You know what? I don't like this person and what they do, but with this issue, I like what they do." And it's like that just doesn't exist in the world of politics at all. It just doesn't.
But to me, it's a matter of personality because I really believe it's such a fine line. It's such a narrow space for somebody to walk, to have the parts of who you are and the way you can connect with people. And Biden's just not it, right?
Oh, no, he's terrible.
Whatever else you think about his policies, whatever.
He's awful at it.
He's not it.
He's not a good president. Period.
No, I think Trump was.
Would you just shut up, man?
Yeah, Trump was just as bad.
That's his best line.
Yes. Yeah.
I think the big problem is that there's only two main political parties. That's like what I like about let's just say with England, there's like 4 or 5 parties that are like the big ones, and it's
How are they doing?
I was a
How are they
big
doing
Patty
over there?
Ashdown fan.
think
Patty
there's-
Ashdown was my guy.
Yeah, so the reason that I'm saying this is because in America, it's like you're either Democrat or you're Republican, or you're something that really, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't even matter. And it's unfortunate because I think that the Republicans and the Democrat parties could both be split. Like people say, like progressive or moderate Democrat. Those could be 2 individual parties, and then you could have multiple parties with opinions that, they're not just in that party because they have this opinion. But so even
in theory, but look at the last 7 years of politics over there. I mean, they're as much of a mess as we are.
Look at
That's not
Italy.
solid.
Their prime minister tried to resign. The president said you can't resign. Then he finally resigned. And he accepted his resignation. In Israel, how many elections have they had in the last couple of years? I mean, it's just
They can't have a coalition government.
yeah. I mean, and the reason why the 2-party system, I think, thrives here is when you have those parties in England, for example. Basically, you're only going to be prime minister if you're a member of one of the 2 parties, the Conservative, the Labour Party, and the other guys just kind of play for cabinet positions. It's the same thing in Ireland, although the 2 parties kind of change in the dominance, and even in Canada. Whereas in the United States, Trump is one guy who had the finances and the gravitas to make it on his own. But even he realized, if I'm going to be president, I got to get in one of these 2 parties and use this structure to support me.
And he leaned in hard.
Yeah.
he went into the opposite party of the one that he had been in 10 years prior.
Yeah, but I mean, he saw.
No,
the
he was
way
an opportunist. Yeah, for sure.
Right, sure. I mean, this was a guy who was anti-gun, pro-choice, went to Bill and Hillary's wedding, had cake with what's her name?
Rosie O'Donnell?
Who loves cake, yeah.
She
Rosie
ate all the
O'Donnell.
cake.
Yeah, and then he hates them all. I mean, this guy is an opportunist. But in our system, he saw the way forward was to go.
Say what you want
within
about
the
it, but
parties.
boy, did he nail that. He did.
He was pretty
Nail
clever.
what?
Rosie O'Donnell? Or?
The anger of the American populace, and he knew how to use
part
it
of
for
it, yeah.
Well, he knew how to use
Right.
it for his advantage. That's fine.
Yeah, but I can also think of 1 or 2 other people who could do the same thing, and we do not
No,
look
I'm
on
with-
them
no,
very
sure.
positively.
Of course.
I'm
But I
not
think
sure
that's-
history is going to be a great judge of Trump with the insurrection and all this other stuff. But the thing is,
No, just the meanness. Yeah.
this independent party, if they get on the ballot in all these states, which is possible, and they start drawing some votes, maybe they'll have the power to swing elections, but they won't win elections. I think Christie Todd Whitman tried to run for president, didn't get very far. We know Yang didn't get very far at all. Mm-hmm. And then he tried in a smaller place, New York, which would be more suited to some of his very liberal policies, and didn't make it. So, this is not like Premier League soccer players coming to America and playing in a weaker league and still being stars. These are guys who couldn't make the varsity, going to a bigger school and then trying to get a starting job. So I don't,
Not going to work.
yeah, I don't see it working, but they are going to screw up other people. And third parties in the U.S. have done a great job of kneecapping people who run for office that have support of what passes for a majority, or at least a plurality.
I really think at some point it could work with the way we're polarized with the right person who has the right fund. Like what Trump did, who would say, I'm not going to go to either party, but I'm going to create this third party.
He would not have won if he was a third party.
No, not Trump specifically, but there might be.
You forget about the money machine behind it, too, which is
No,
the
I
RNC
totally
and the
understand
DNC.
that, but the more we keep going the way we're going, I think there's going to be a hunger for it at some point.
Well, the crazy thing is that we've had this bad blood even when the economy's been strong. And usually you think of people getting really nasty when they're fighting for their food. But we've been in a pretty good economic space for the last 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
And maybe that's what happens
More
when
than
you're
that,
comfortable.
but yeah.
You find other shit to
I mean,
fight about.
inflation and gas and grocery prices right now aren't fun for folks, obviously. But
And that's the shit that matters.
but you know what? It matters even more. I mean, the cost of education and housing and healthcare; those 3 things, right, are awful and have been for a while, and they hurt people in a way that we don't talk about enough, and we don't need to get down that road here. But
everyone goes to the grocery store, though.
yeah, and everybody needs healthcare, and most people need a place to live. right? Maybe everybody needs a place to live. But to your point, Mike, I'm with you. It's not just economics, right? It's identity, how you think about yourself, how you attach that into the country in a larger way. And there's a lot of anxiety and fear around that. And we're fighting over who we are and what we mean. And that's a lot of our politics right now. You know, how much is it about policy? Trump rarely talked about policy other than I want to build a wall, right?
Yeah, they didn't even have a platform at the convention.
Yeah, Biden tries to talk about policy and nobody cares.
Well, no, Trump wanted to kill Obamacare. He wanted to put conservative, pro-life judges on the Supreme Court.
Nothing
he
to
wanted
replace
to move the embassy to Jerusalem. I mean, there were things he wanted to do that were policy things that he did. He didn't get Obama.
I would argue, other than Obamacare, and they never had any replacement.
Which he came real close to.
He did, and they didn't have a replacement for that. In other words,
they redid NAFTA.
There was no actual.
It was not a huge overhaul, but he got that done.
But the embassy and all that stuff to me is identity. It's a wink to what kind of country we're gonna be and who's gonna be in it. Again, I mean, maybe technically that's policy, but it's not. It's more emotional kind of. Here's how we want to think about ourselves, and I'm going to do this and this so you can.
I don't know if everybody thinks that way, though.
I'm not saying everybody thinks that way.
I think most people are.
Well, but I think because Trump was such a incendiary character, you're forgetting about some of the things he talked about. He talked about lowering prescription drug prices, which was a big platform thing. Nothing got done on it. He talked about. There were a lot of things he talked about doing that did happen. He talked about cutting taxes. They did get cut. He talked about, redoing NAFTA, which did get done. It was not, I would say, a huge change. He talked about killing the Asia-Pacific Trade Pact that he did kill it. It didn't happen. He talked about doing the pipeline from Canada through the Dakotas. He did get that move forward. He did increase drilling and allow people to take natural resources out of government land. People hated that. It did happen. I mean, there were some concrete things he said he was going to do if he got elected that he did get done. Some he didn't, but he did talk about getting some specific things done. No president has ever gotten elected by saying, I'm going to change the coefficient on the deductible to 0.37 from 0.54 because, I mean, that's some wonky-ass policy stuff that no one's ever gotten elected on. But you have broader things like cheaper gas, more jobs. You're going to have to work for this. I mean,
but they all say that. He got elected because he says it's okay if the cops, when they're putting the perp in the car, bump his head, you know? No, seriously, that's
you think that's why
they're sending our. Of course, I do. They're sending
There's
our
some
rapists,
of that, but to say that he had no policy
that's
just not right.
Well, I said he had no platform. I mean, he had no official platform.
But they all okay. The Republicans want to cut taxes, Democrats, whatever. That's always there. It's the way you appeal, especially as the president. It's the way you appeal, or presidential candidate. It's the way you appeal emotionally.
Sure.
I mean, that's been true for a long, long time since television, right? It's why Nixon lost to Kennedy. Historians believe. Because of television, because there was a visceral reaction. Yeah, once you saw them and you have a visceral emotional reaction.
Yeah, it's always been the way it is. There's always been catchy slogans. There's always been, before television, there were editorial cartoons and things like that. I mean, Tammany Hall, one of the reasons why it became so famous was because of the Thomas Nast cartoons with Boss Tweed and all that other stuff. I mean, the media has always been an important way to influence people. I mean, that's...
Well, just turn it on now and look at all the ads.
Yeah.
Which I thoroughly enjoy.
Oh, my God.
They're all so terribly ridiculous.
Yeah, no, it's
you suck. No, you suck. No, you suck.
You should have seen the ads that they had written down on the chalkboards or whatever back in the very beginning of America, where John Adams and Thomas Jefferson would talk about how they were rapists and they would assault you on the street. And
you told them to stop that, right?
Yeah, no, my grandmother did. She grew up with them.
She's 300 years old?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she looks great for 300.
I mean, I think one of the reasons so many Democrats are disillusioned with Biden is because he doesn't make you feel anything. He doesn't make you feel a certain way. And people want that from the president. Whatever else you thought about Trump, he elicited response. He elicited a deep psychological response, for better and for worse. Biden doesn't do any of that.
He doesn't do anything.
Nothing.
Period.
I would love to have an elected leader that just gets shit done. I don't have to care about how I feel about them.
I agree. But I'm just saying a lot of people don't.
Most people don't.
Most people don't.
No, I know. Our system is set up. It's an adversarial system, and one of the ways you advance is to demonize the other side, and so you stoke passions and all that other stuff. But I mean, how many people who live in a very nice place have a strong feeling about their city manager or even know who they are?
Oh, I love my city manager in Berkeley.
Okay,
Matt,
well, there goes that theory.
No, I understand your point. I understand your
It took
point.
about 2 seconds
She's
to
really
gut that one.
shaking things up in the city.
I understand your point, but the city manager's not controlling the military, right? So
No, but the city manager controls more of your life than the president
in a lot of ways, for sure.
Because if the 911 call gets answered promptly, if the schools are good, if the roads are paved,
question.
that's the quality of life stuff that really
Matters.
at the end of the day, that we kind of judge our day-to-day happiness on.
I would argue along with you have access to health care and can you get your kids into school and all that, and you can't do that just at the local level. So those are big questions and need to be decided by folks up high.
Donald
I'm not saying only care about your city manager, but I'm just saying that competent, efficient, low-key, effective leadership, boy, oh boy, wouldn't that be nice at a national level?
Yeah, well, and as Donald comments on Facebook here, he just wants a president younger than 70.
That would be nice.
I hate to sound ageist, but I'm with you, Donald.
Come on. If anybody who disagrees with that
Didn't we just have
I think
one
they're not thinking
under
it
70
through.
like 10 years ago, though?
You want him younger than 70.
No, yeah,
Be
I
honest
don't want to
about
sound
it. It's not
ageist, but I'm with.
no, it's not an
But I'm with
ageist.
Donald. Thank you, Donald.
Yeah.
See, the president's
Who?
age doesn't bother me.
Really?
I mean, yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't. I mean, and I'm not 70, but I'm at the Free Press and I'm talking about stuff, and there are people who haven't been there for more than 5 years. They have no idea what I'm talking about.
Well, there's a difference between 25 and 65, right? There's a big old gap in there that we can probably find a space. What's the Constitution? 34?
35.
35.
But
35?
to get to the kind of leadership that you want, Shawn, you have to go back a long way.
I
You
want
have
your
to-
leadership,
You have
to be
go,
honest.
Well, it's too bad I live in Grosse Pointe.
That's
I'm
why
one
I
of the
come here.
problems.
That's why I come here, because I looked at your guidance.
But
What are we talking about next, dear leader?
but
Yeah.
but the thing is,
Mark's the true leader.
you have to be kind of old to remember a time when people got together in Washington.
Remember how people felt when Clinton first got on the scene? I mean, how he was in his 40s, right?
Sure.
Early on, before any of the other stuff, he actually kind of, people especially in the middle, because he wasn't that far left, even though eventually the right tried to paint him that way. But there was a sweet spot in there for him.
Well,
Because of the way he connected with people and the way
he knew how to use the media too. I mean,
He did.
Arsenio Hall. I mean, that
He
was
did.
huge for him. And that
Before it
was
started
the
going
only-
bad for him, he had a little window in there where that charisma, we haven't really, Obama had a little bit of it, but
See,
it was a
that's
lot more
before he got
complicated.
elected.
That's what I mean. You got to have that historical perspective, because they started on with Whitewater and then Vince
Foster.
Vince Foster.
No,
I mean,
it-
it didn't take very long.
No, it didn't. It
for
didn't.
somebody to say we're going to throw some garbage at you. Now the
No,
Whitewater thing wasn't so sketchy,
And to bring it full
but
circle,
the Vince Foster's terrible.
bring it full circle, Ross Perot helped him too.
No, for sure.
He wouldn't have been elected without Ross Perot.
I don't think so either.
No, he might not have been. But once he got out and got it, and there was a little window there where,
See what I did there?
yeah, I did.
Got these charts.
Yeah, I did. What are you talking about, DeShawn Watson?
I don't know.
DeShawn Watson.
Ask the dear leader.
Yeah. Oh, no, you asked the dear leader what we should talk about next.
Dear, what is this? Is Kim Jong Un, soul of North Korea,
Well,
soul
you-
of Seoul?
Well, no, you're not like that anymore. Thank you.
Well, how do you guys feel that Watson only got 6 weeks for the suspension?
I'm sorry. I thought I asked Mike.
I love it.
Ooh, now who's the dear leader?
Yeah, no. I'm channeling Mike. Sorry.
Sorry, Master.
Wow.
No, what's that? What's that,
You just
Patrick?
got out of war bingo.
Say that
there,
again,
whatever.
Patrick, please.
I just wanted to
Forgive
get your
me, I'm
guys'
sorry.
opinion on how you feel about only getting a 6-week suspension, or if you think that 6 weeks was too much, even.
I think he should be in jail. I mean, the guy should be in jail. But he is worth a lot of money and had really good lawyers, and somehow beat 2 grand juries. I mean, he should be in jail. The NFL and how they rule out justice is just hilarious and laughable to me. And it's no coincidence that today that they announced that Stephen Ross is suspended for the same, I think, pretty much 6 weeks as well.
6 weeks as well.
He gets fined $1.5 million. This is all about tampering. Now they drop him because they've made this big deal about how we're going to penalize owners and we're going to penalize players the same way. And it's just, okay, so that's why these two came down with the timing that they did. It's 6 games for what DeShawn Watson did is laughable.
But if like the the courts already, I don't know if they acquitted him, but it was because it was like a civil case, wasn't it? If they didn't do anything to him about it, then is the NFL really at liberty to do it?
They had a criminal investigation. That's what the grand juries were for.
Yeah, and so if he didn't actually face like many repercussions for that, do you think it's really right for the NFL to be dealing out punishment themselves?
Yeah. I mean, he's in a union. This is the deal they have with their union, which is kind of silly that the NFL players have a union, but they do.
Well, here's what I need to understand, because basically my knowledge of the DeShawn Watson situation comes from listening to the Drew and Mike podcast, and
it's terrible.
And I don't catch it every day. And DeShawn Watson, I kind of gloss over a little bit, but he was accused of sexually assaulting 24 masseuses, right? Or massage therapists.
25 accused him. One withdrew her lawsuit because she didn't want to be publicly named. So right. I don't think that was a money grab.
Were these in different jurisdictions or all in when he was playing for Houston? So this is all over the country? Or?
Yeah, mainly around Houston. He did travel. Do you remember? I don't know. He did travel for some of them. But yeah, they weren't all in the same jurisdiction.
So were these cases investigated? Because I think, so there's two issues here. To Patrick's point, if there are no criminal charges brought, how do you treat him like a criminal? But at the same time, the NFL is a monopoly. They're basically God, and they can decide, if we don't like you and the way you conduct yourself, we're going to tell you to go someplace else and do business someplace else. I mean, that's kind of what they did to Colin Kaepernick. And unless the union can stop them, and the NFL's union is notoriously weak, they get to do what they want to do.
But there's very little guidance as to what, how many games for this, how many games for that. People love bringing up, other suspensions that they've had in the NFL, but most of those are, what happens between the lines. But Ray Rice was the precedent, right, Shawn? Because once that video came out where he's beating up his wife, he got suspended, and that was the end of him.
Because of the video.
Well, yeah, but once the video came out, they suspended him. That wasn't anything that messed with the integrity of the game.
No, it's the video. It's the visceral response, kind of what we were just talking about with the president and being connected. People react to that. They have an emotional response, and then they want whatever they think is justice.
It's
all right.
It's sickening to know.
Rights would have kept playing if that video had not.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Who was the guy who ended up with the Bengals, who had gotten in trouble in the strip club?
Vontez Perfect?
No, you're not talking about Joe Mixon. You're talking about Pac-Man Jones?
Pac-Man Jones, yeah. Didn't he get knocked out for a year, and then Adrian Peterson got knocked out for a year because of beating his kid, and then then the guy who punched the woman at the club when he was in college.
It is all about optics for the NFL.
Well, yeah, those suspensions have been all over the map.
That's true of most companies, though, right? I mean,
sure.
In universities, including the one that you have on your T-shirt right there.
Yeah, no, all institutions, right? They're not.
Yet the largest suspension right now is a guy who bet like $1,500 on himself.
Yeah,
or on his team when he wasn't even playing.
Okay, but that's because they care about the look of the integrity of the game. They don't want people to think that any kind of game could be fixed on any level, especially when you can gamble on individual
because it's
players.
The end of the business, if it is, right? So
100%.
It's an existential threat.
Yeah.
Whereas they feel like, as harsh as this sounds, they can, handle certain criminal. I mean, that was the issue with Kaepernick. They saw Kaepernick and kneeling based on their demographics of the NFL and the fans of the NFL, excuse me. They saw Kaepernick in some ways as an existential threat, right? They did.
Oh yeah.
No, ratings went down after that. There were people.
Well, and the owners knew if they signed him at that point, right? They were going to see it in the ticket sales, the merchandise, also. I mean, in all sorts of ways.
It's one of those things. There's so many different variables, but in the end, isn't it just wrong? Isn't it just wrong?
No, for sure.
Well,
for sure. But
when you talk about the integrity of the game, I'm like, those two words don't belong in the same sentence when you're talking about the NFL and, frankly, most pro sports.
What do you mean?
I don't think there's any integrity. I don't think there's any standards. I think what you have is the gods on Olympus who run the NFL, and they try and figure out what they have to do to continue to have everybody play, but not provoke so much outrage that it will hurt them. It's not about.
I agree with that.
About what does DeShawn Watson deserve. It's about What can we give DeShawn Watson to get him back on the field as soon as possible and not have women marching outside the stadium saying, don't
Well, of course,
I'm
that's absolutely true.
I'm with you 100%.
So that's why I say I'm out.
That's why it's laughable.
I'm not going to be a part of that. I'm just good luck.
I feel like it's
now if the Lions didn't suck, I might feel differently. So it's kind of an easy one for me.
It's kind of silly that you had the NFLPA battling with the NFL over this DeShawn Watson case that they brought this outside judge in for because both sides really want him on the field. You know, they really wanted him on the field. So it's,
for sure.
It's like, okay, well, what is the suspension that is palatable to your point, Emma?
I did have another quick question. I noticed that in the rundown of the show today, it said Shawn and bathroom break.
You overdue?
Kind of.
Okay.
I do have a question.
This break brought to you by Joe Theismann
and Saul
Palmetto Caplets.
Oh man, the geeks have inherited the earth.
Did I do that?
What a dork.
Does him wanting to play with us again mean that he's turning into a geek, or we're turning into cool guys?
So, like the NFL and the public, this shows a delicate balance between trying not to piss too many people off and trying to make sure somebody can piss off to go
take a piss.
have a leak.
Literally.
So, and now we're at Geek of the Week, where I can go forward unharassed by my swollen prostate pal. And while we're talking about people who have medical conditions, I should be very careful not to do any victim shaming here. But I do have to say, we got to name this guy Tyrone Prodis our Geek of the Week. But we're also going to put our arms around him. Just careful not to squeeze too tightly. If you don't know Mr. Prodis, count yourself lucky. He's an Englishman who for the last 5 years has had uncontrollable flatulence, which he blames on a ham roll that he bought in 2017 at a Christmas market. He says that it didn't take him long to find out that something was wrong because he had a tummy ache, and then he was bedridden for several weeks. But eventually he got back on his feet, as the English often do, and just couldn't stop passing gas. It's now been 5 years that this funky roll caused this funky soul to emit this funky gas. And his lawyer says that he's not the only one, that several people who purchased a ham roll, which is basically just some ham on a piece of bread.
I guess the first thing I'm amazed at is he waited 5 years to file the lawsuit. Wouldn't you have filed it a lot faster than that?
Well, it may just be, after 5 years, his lawyer's the only one who will talk to him.
That could be, yeah. Or, he finally found a lawyer who would file such a frivolous lawsuit.
Yeah, so he says that there was some salmonella. Apparently this was a ham gone bad, and that Mr. Prodis is now fighting for just recompense. He's trying to get something like $320,000. This issue will be decided by the High Court, who will determine whether Mr. Prodis or his lawyer is the one who's really full of hot air.
Oh, well done. You must be a writer.
There's a big windup. I was trying to give Shawn a chance to bring in some of his... I guess we're on 3 years of flatulence from Shawn. This is episode 165, so... Yes, we're in our 4th year of broken wind and fractured syntax.
You've got the time.
What were we just talking about?
You were going to the bathroom. You don't.
And I want to know.
You missed it.
I heard
Too bad.
broken hit, wind, and
too bad. You missed it.
What'd you say?
Too bad. You missed it.
What'd you say?
We were just talking
Patrick,
about.
what'd you say?
I'm gonna kill your mic.
We were just talking about life and how sometimes when you have to go to the bathroom a lot, you miss out on good conversation.
You can just go back and listen to it after it's.
Of course, that wasn't the case here.
Drew didn't know I was up there and opened the door on me and it scared the shit out of him.
Literally,
we actually picked that up on your microphone too.
Wow. Some people lock the door when they go to
that door's tricky though, because you have to. Yeah, it's a mess. You have to pull up on the door.
In those bathrooms, you got to put your foot agaagainst the door.
Oh yeah,
trying to take a leak. You're like,
oh my god, yeah.
I mean, it's sort of like having one foot on the boat, one foot on the dock, but you're the one creating the stream.
Is everything okay? You all right?
Yeah, we're all good.
Good.
Yeah, we're all good. I just
Well, Shawn, because I know you do this every week, when you listen back to the show to try and find things that you can improve upon, that we can all work together on.
Yeah,
to make
yeah,
this
yeah.
a more
So what were you
satisfying
saying?
experience. You'll hear that when
Yeah.
you do your
Listen
weekly.
back. Yeah. When you air check it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah. So
So listener John comes to us with this great suggestion for room 7609. It's the Rosillos playing something you'll never forget, although perhaps you wish you would. It's called Flying Saucer Attack. Wow.
I love it. I love that. It was great.
He said once and it's over. We had twice at the end there, with that little lift-off sound.
That's what happens with a flying saucer attack.
thank you, John.
That was great.
That was fun.
So you like the Rosillos?
Yeah.
Does it remind you of any other bands that may be a little more new wavy? This is kind of, punky, new wave, very edgy.
B-52s? I don't know.
It's kind of campy like the B-52s.
They're a little more punky than that. Yeah, maybe that's why I was thinking that.
A little more of an edge, but I think of like bands like the Waitresses and
oh yeah, there you go. Yeah,
and Romeo Void with that kind of strong leads, and the Cramps.
Cramps, yeah.
The Cramps. I always think it has that where it's almost like, is this really an act or is this a gimmick? Like Eyeballing My Martini and some of those other crazy Cramps songs where you're like, yeah, I think these guys are.
I've never. What do you know about this band? I've never even heard of them.
A little less poppy, or more pop. No, I can't even think. Romantics a little bit.
With the guitars, yeah. I mean, you have that kind of that sort of Rickenbacker sound where they just
bass line was sweet.
Oh, I know. How's that dude keep up?
Oh, great choice.
So so that's from listener John, who, as you know, we try and find bands that people missed out on or bands that you love that have a tune that you missed out on. And they actually had quite a few hits and then broke up. Like 4 months after they recorded their first album, it really started to bounce. They decided, we've had it. And they've reformed over the years, and they reformed with some members as a group called the Rosillos, which I think was strictly to try and avoid some sort of contractual obligation. But one of the guys in the original incarnation of the band was somebody named Joe Callis, who you probably don't know that name, but he moved on to be a songwriter and one of the one of the, I guess, the musical geniuses behind the Human League, which has a much more polished and a much more classic sort of new wave poppy sound.
Isn't that their big song? Don't you want?
Oh
me?
yeah. And I was working as a waitress in a cocktail bar when I first met you. But
wait, who did that?
Oh my God!
Human League.
That's
So one of the guys from the Rosillos.
I didn't hear the Human League.
Ended up going to.
Why? What was so interesting on your phone?
I was looking at the delivery people that keep calling. Sorry.
He was doing Shazam.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you for being honest.
Yeah, they delivered something that was broken, and so they promised me some lead time so I can arrange it, but they didn't. All of a sudden, they're just delivering it, and they've called 5 times.
I've told you, do not order those marble statues online because if they're not packed properly, it's going to throw off your whole wine garden.
What about a refrigerator?
What?
When your refrigerator goes.
I don't know why you would put one of those in your next to your saltwater pool and reflection pond.
So, I thought you were talking about your own backyard.
No. We had a little bit of a flood, but I don't know whether the water was salty or not. We just
probably not.
No,
probably not.
I just got a Doctor Strange costume online a couple weeks ago, and I'm gonna be wearing that a lot upcoming weeks or so when I go back to school because it looks awesome. It looks really cool.
Waiting for you to bring this around.
That was an amazing non sequitur.
Yeah,
that might be one of the best non sequiturs I've ever heard of.
It's just super ADHD.
Okay. Well, this moment brought to you by Tom Masway. That's why.
That was even more obscure than what Tom does.
He's offset. Although he would like the Doctor Strange. He'd like the cartoon reference, right? Or the comic book reference?
No, because he only likes Batman.
If we want to stay with
Batman's
Latin.
the best, okay?
Is he one of these DC versus Marvel guys? I
don't think he even knows.
Are we going to stay with Latin? Because I think it's on your rundown next.
Res ispa loquitur.
Uh-oh.
That just means accidents are devolved from ignorance.
Yeah, or negligence.
Res ipsa loquitur means the thing speaks for itself. But maybe that's...
Implies negligence.
It's a phrase
right?
that implies ignorance and negligence in the case of accidents.
So anyways, we love it when you suggest songs for us for Room 7609. And if you are listening to the audio download, we really appreciate that. We probably have lost most of our YouTube viewers because we have to switch off the live broadcast once we get into live music. But
It's very sad.
We would love it if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel because it really does support the show, as do your donations, except there were no donations this week, so maybe we'll get some YouTube subscribers. That would be really nice.
It's very sad.
And as Patrick told you earlier, hit the
like the video, hit the subscribe button, click that bell for notifications.
There you go. And whenever we go live, which sometimes is a dicey proposition, you will know because you will get a notification. So feedback, just a little bit of feedback this week. Tanya writes, "Hi, Mr. Elric, avid fan of your column and podcast, but I thought the Mr. Lucido column was your weakest yet. So if you missed last week's offering in the Free Press of the new On Guard column, I talked about how Macomb County prosecutor, who was on this show a couple weeks ago, was having a birthday party fundraiser and how it made me think about all the other politicians I know who have raised money using their birthday as a hook. Mr. Lucido got in a little trouble for a picture that was taken during his fundraiser, kind of a tempest in a teapot, but there was a lot of tea being poured on him at that time, so it kind of cascaded a little bit. But the other guys, well, Andre Spivey, Detroit City Councilman, in prison for taking bribes, partly to fund his birthday party fundraiser. Kwame Kilpatrick, out of prison, but went to prison in part for extorting contractors, which he did one time. He had a party called a Splash of Red, where he had people come out to celebrate his birthday, and they gave him cash, including a poor little youth football coach who was only going to put $10 in the kitty, but was told you should put at least $100, which he did, but then he didn't have enough money to eat anything other than ramen noodles for the next week. So we kind of explored this phenomena, but Tanya, was a little underwhelmed. She says, "It seems like Lucido is the go-to boomer white guy punching bag. It was an entertaining read, I suppose, but it's a bit lazy. I didn't see any there worthy of your valuable reporting, especially on the eve of a primary and especially right after Lucido was vindicated by the Michigan Supreme Court." Now, of course, we did talk last week about Lucido winning a court case involving his ability to hire people. Macomb County Executive Marc thought he didn't have that power. The Supreme Court disagreed. So we did talk about that. And then then Tanya weighs in and says, I hope readers or editors aren't bullying you over the race of your targets, so you figured Lucido was an easy white guy to aim your ink at. And she signs it warmly, Tanya. She also suggested some other people we should be going after, but this is kind of a question that comes up in newsrooms when you're a week out from an election. This issue of going easy on people in the primary, there's kind of a grace period in the week leading up to an election where you generally will not write anything negative about a candidate unless it's huge, like really, oh my God, I can't believe this happened, because you don't want to derail a candidate when they're so close to the finish line. And newspapers and news organizations debate this all the time when they find out something a little sketchy about a candidate as to whether or not it's a big enough deal to put out there as people are making their minds up. I will tell you, my column was strictly because Lucido had just had his birthday party fundraiser last week, which I talked to him about. He said, why are you picking on me? I said, because you just had your fundraiser and because you sent me like 4 invitations. So it was very much on my mind, and I'd just written about Andre Spivey and his problems with.
And you got comments from him too, right? I mean, doesn't that help?
Oh yeah, well, I mean,
so it's good about it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a jumping off point.
Lucido had plenty to say about it, and he's not someone who runs from an opportunity to comment or from a controversy. So
your editors weren't bullying you?
No, but I will tell you that I've heard this over the years, and Hugh Perkins and I have talked about it on the news, and it's come up in many forums, that there are a lot of people who will attack and say, oh, you only go after black people, which is absolutely not true. I think even in the Free Press, I've written about things ranging from infighting in the Republican Party in Macomb County, all white guys, problems with Judge Hathaway. Well, I shouldn't say Judge Hathaway, probably soon to be Judge Hathaway running on his name or his wife's name again, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I primarily cover the city of Detroit. I primarily cover Wayne County. And when you look at the politicians in power in those two governmental entities, it tends to be overwhelmingly black people. And so when people do something wrong in our home area and I write about it because of what they've done, not because of what they look like. But there is a lot of thought put into what we cover and how we cover it to make sure that it doesn't seem like we're only paying attention to one particular group of people. So these are things that we do consider when we do stories, but we don't just say, oh, you know what, we haven't done anything on a white guy in a while, so let's pull this guy out of the crowd and beat the shit out of him just so we can try and make people think that we're fair. It doesn't work that way, but I can see why people have those concerns, because my race comes up all the time. Like we said at the top of the show, we had tons of volunteers at the polls. And instead of hearing, wow, you had a lot of people out there working hard for you, we heard about what they looked like, because race, sadly, is a part of our lives. It's something that we shouldn't ignore. We can't ignore. But there are times when it's going to be used to try and derail people, to try and undermine people, and to try and create a problem when there isn't a problem. And the sad thing is we have so many problems with race in this country, and particularly in this region. Why do we need to create places to make it an issue? I don't know why. But in a nutshell, Tanya, Pete Lucido, it was timely. So that's why we did it. And frankly, these politicians who have fundraisers on their birthday, doesn't that sort of speak to ego? I mean,
yeah, well, I mean,
I'm so great, you should come and give me money.
Still, you have to have an ego to be a politician.
That's true too.
I firmly believe that. Now, the more prominent the office, I think greater the ego.
You have to have an ego to do a podcast too.
No, you don't.
Not like my name's on it or something.
You mentioned in the article too about Clinton and Obama.
Even Patrick has an ego.
Had birthday fundraisers.
Yeah, and Clinton raised $10 million. I think Obama's raised way more than that. And I think later on, Clinton had a birthday fundraiser for the Clinton Foundation. So he was always going to cash in on that blessed day when he was born.
Isn't it just another reason to ask for money?
Oh, yeah.
Because they're always asking for money, and they'll find any reason to shoot out an email or a text to ask for money.
Oh, and we've talked a little bit about this on this show, but one of the things that I just think is, oh man, I see it more and more now, and maybe it's just because it's so easy to reach us, but somebody will be in real trouble. I mean, like something really horrible will happen, and then they'll send out an email and say, something really horrible happened, send me $3.
Yeah.
I've been targeted by so-and-so. That's why I need $5, $15, $25. You can send it here. which makes me feel.
Is that better or worse than saying, it's my birthday, give me money? I mean, I don't know.
Well,
they're both fucking lame.
Yeah, raising money was one of the things I liked doing the least about being a politician. And you know, I raise a lot of money for Clark Park, too. And that's a great cause that no one should ever feel ashamed to beg for. But I still am not comfortable asking people for money for anything. But
that's the most important thing, though, in an election.
Speaking of birthdays and birthday parties, we have a big party coming up, right?
Oh, my God. I can't believe we forgot to mention, sir. Yes, thank you, Shawn. We are going to be having a party next Monday.
I know he's lying through his
That's
teeth.
August.
He's never thanked me in his life.
I should have mentioned it off the top. That one time I thanked you for being quiet.
No, I think we had a sincere, real conversation about 15 years ago. It was great. He may have thanked me after that.
When it was over. On Monday, August 8th, we're going to be having a little soiree at the Caju Cafe to celebrate Kalina and Patrick, our NIL athlete and our intern. And you're going to come out and get a chance to meet them. We're going to have feather bowling from 7 until 8. And then after that, we'll just sit in the beer garden and have some beers. And we may have some feather bowling after 9 o'clock. But we invite you to come out and meet the team. I'll be there. Patrick will be there. Kalina will be there. We'll have some friends and family. We'd love to meet you. I think we'll have some merch, although I usually bring the merch and then forget to sell it because I just kind of am drinking beer and hanging out. But Shawn may be there. Marc may be there. We don't want to make any promises we can't keep, but we would love to see you at the Caju Cafe next Monday to help us send off our intern and our NIL athlete back to Michigan State and to Grand Valley State, where we're sure the only things ahead of them are greatness and hangovers.
And voting.
Yeah, and lots of alcohol.
Well, that's where the hangovers come in. But, that reminds me of Dr. Strange and Benedict Cumberbatch one time. No, nothing to remind me of.
You're not very good at non sequiturs.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, leave that to me.
Yes. No, you're doing fine.
How about if I just do it with no sequitur at all?
Actually, I have a non sequitur.
What else is on
Your sequitur is very good.
What else is on the
It's somewhat of a sequitur.
Red Shovel Network?
Hold on a second. I got to tell the story because it's about my grandma. I love telling stories about my
Start the
grandma.
clock.
Although in my column, I told my
Thank you,
story
Grandma.
about throwing slippers at my grandma.
Thank you for producing
That was
Mike,
fun.
Grandma.
But so
Your tantrum.
back when my grandma was still with us, I posted something on Facebook that said, doesn't Benedict Cumberbatch look a lot like Fred McMurray? And my grandma's comment was, who's Benedict Cumberbatch? Because she's in her 90s, where everybody else, I think, was saying,
Fred
like,
McMurray?
who's Fred
Fred
McMurray?
McMurray, yeah.
You know,
Right, right.
And, of course, Benedict
That's nice.
Cumberbatch came on to play
That's nice.
Khan.
You're the best grandma ever.
Dr. Strange.
Thank you.
So, and we want to thank Patrick's grandmother for listening because she knows who Fred McMurray is. And apparently
does,
John
yeah.
Quincy Adams.
Yeah, she was. They were best friends when they were growing up.
Really? I heard she was dating Button Gwinnett.
I don't know who that is, but
It's
that
another
could have
sign
been
of the Constitution. Know your history, son.
Oh,
Sorry, never again. Anyways, everybody in Georgia knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, we've got Dave Burkett on to talk about the Lions on the Carlos and Shawn podcast.
I'm checking the rundown. There's nothing on here about Carlos and Shawn. That's okay.
I'm just adding that in there.
Oh, you just walked that on? Okay.
Can you have Dave weasel his way onto what is Hard Knocks? Like anytime there's a camera there.
Yeah.
Let me put a note
No,
on.
will you ask? I
He'll
found
probably want to be stay. What you didn't put that in there? You must be
CNS.
You
I
must
thought
be
time
tired
was
to ask
precious.
me about it. Yeah, thank you.
I would love to know because when there's cameras around, people act differently. They always do. They just do. It's just human nature. Well, does that happen with Hard Knocks? Because it's a very controlled, contrived version of what NFL training can. It's so
there's
phony.
so many cameras. They're everywhere.
But it's fake the way they edit it. They're not going to show you the real
but
shit.
that's different. But when you're there,
That's what I'm wondering.
There's
Do
so
people-
many cameras. I was there a few days ago. I didn't even think about them.
Really? Okay.
Because they're everywhere, right? And not only that, we're used to, as print people especially, we're used to having TV people like Mike around, and they're camera people. So,
Okay. So it's
you
really
can't-
not that
especially-
different
yeah, it's-
anyway.
Yeah,
There's got to be a different feel. I mean, this is a big.
I mean, you go into a baseball
show.
clubhouse after a game, and there are cameras everywhere, right? And you got to get in and around. I try to stay away from them, but
you know, it's this reality show. That's kind of what I was wondering. Like, I would think some people would play up to it.
I don't know. Maybe I don't think it's a whole lot different than knowing you're going to show up on the evening news in the background when you're.
Yeah, but that's practice. I mean,
but those jokers are always bumping into you and saying, "Hey, man, hey, whatever."
Or you're in my way, or come on,
I mean, they have cameras in the meetings.
A guy got upset with me in Vegas because I was blocking his shot when I was trying to talk to Isaiah Livers. I think I can't remember who it was, but
you got to have that shot.
Yeah, yeah, no, I know. And then I turned around. I'm like, I didn't like this tone, and I reacted to it in a way I don't normally do. I turned around and went, "Dude,
step to me, bitch." Is that what you said?
And then afterwards, I'm
let's
like,
get the film from him.
He was little guy, and afterwards, I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, man. I just
Did you put your hand on the."
But
camera?
it was the way he was so irritated with me, and it, yeah, I don't like doing that at all.
Don't ask Dave that
unless it's Mike.
Golly. Next week, speaking of TV guys, we have some special guests coming on the show next week. Of course, Patrick will be here. Kalina will be back in town. And Max Prokop, who wrote Buzz Me Cool, which is our Cool Ass Shit was the other name we had for it, which is our commissioned background music bed. And Derek Kevra, my former colleague at Fox 2, who is one of the meteorologists there, he and I will be emceeing an ALS fundraiser at the Magic Bag on August 12th. And so he's going to be on next Tuesday to talk about the event, talk about how you can help out, and we'll tell a few stories along the way. So next week we have a great show. Hopefully we'll make up for this week and you'll give us another chance. And then I think it's just a matter of, killing some time the rest of the week with the Drew and Mike show and the Child of the Duff No BS News Hour.
Sounds good.
Sounds lovely.
Yeah. So you know what sounds better?
Cyrus
taking us out.
Can you dig that?
Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
I want noise. I'm in the business of loud.
That's fuchsia.
Yeah, fuchsia.
Fuchsia's a bit in your face.
I want in your face. I am in your face.